Hey guys, welcome back to the class. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to reproduce step by step one of the most popular thumbnails from our YouTube channel. So as I mentioned in the introduction of this course, we are not going to pick any random video and reproduce this particular thumbnail. We are going to focus on a video that is performing extraordinarily well on our YouTube channel. So let's head over to our YouTube channel first. So this is the YouTube Studio. It is called YouTube Studio. So you have to be the admin of your channel to get there. And this is where you can access the analytics, the channel analytics. So let's go ahead and click here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on more, the more button here, see more. So I can see all the analytics of the channel. So I'm going to pay particular attention to one specific metric, and that is the impressions click-through rate. So what is that? It is the views per impressions shown. That means that this measures how often viewers watched a video after seeing an impression. So what is an impression? Is simply YouTube showing your video in the search results or in the suggested videos. So it gives us an indication of how many times somebody clicks on the video when they see that video, when they are exposed to that video. So that should give us a pretty good understanding if our thumbnail is working or not. So we are going to sort this column by clicking on it simply. So it will basically gives us the highest number on top. So we see here 100% click-through. This is probably not a published video. You see only 6 views. So let's skip this one. 75 view, also not a published video. But this one, with the impressions click-through rate of 12%, has almost 18,000 views. So this is definitely a published video. So let's hover over the title to see the thumbnail, a preview of the thumbnail, PowerPoint Killer, Present Feature, Canva. All right, so, and you see here the timer, Canva is showing the timer, and I can see that there was something behind this timer. So we will talk about this. But now we know which video to focus on. It's called Canva 2.0, Create Better Presentation. So let's jump over to Canva and recreate that thumbnail. All right, so we are now into Canva, and I want to show you the original document in which I created this thumbnail. So for this, let me switch over to like the overview. And you can see here, page 48. This is the thumbnail. So it has a big fat text right here, PowerPoint Killer, which is kind of intriguing. I want to click to know what this PowerPoint Killer is. Then we have a box with some gradient that kind of creates a high contrast with the present feature. We have the Canva logo with the little 2.0 here. So I suggest in the reproduction of this thumbnail that we drop this 2.0 thingy here. Why? Well, simply because first, there is a YouTube time indicator that will come here. We have learned that in the previous lectures. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that it's no longer really relevant to talk about Canva 2.0. What is Canva 2.0 anyways? Canva 2.0 is when Canva upgraded its editor, went from the 1.0 version to 2.0, and at the time they were calling this the editor 2.0, but it's no longer really relevant. So I'm just going to ditch that for this actual version of the thumbnail. And then what do we have here? We have something that seems to be like a frame or a grid with a photo inside and some color filter over it. And then we have a gradient in the background. So let's go ahead and reproduce similar thumbnails. So I'm going to head back to the Canva homepage and create a new document, which is a presentation. So I'm going to click on presentation and I'm going to drag this tab over here. All right, so let's start with the base, which is a gradient. So for that, I'm going to use a grid. I'm going to position my gradient into a grid. Well, I could skip this phase if I want, but I like to have my things properly stored into grid so it's easier to manipulate. So just clicking on grid, which is good, it's going to fill up my entire screen, and then we need a gradient. So head over to your photos and search for gradient. Okay, so just typing in gradient, And you have different options here given you by Canva, but it can simply start just browsing here and see if you find a gradient that you like. I kind of like this purple one. Let's see if we find something any better. This one is nice too. This one, I'm going to go for this one. Okay, so using this, I can double click on it as well. Let me show you by zooming out, like if you want your gradient to be slightly different, like this. Okay, so we have our gradient. So that's the first phase, I would say, the first stage of the creation of this thumbnail right here. Let me go back. Okay, so we have the gradient. It's a slightly different gradient, but it doesn't really matter too much. We have our first gradient. I'm going to lock this first layer right here. And then again, adding another grid on top of that. And that's where our photo is going to come. So let's go ahead and click on photos. And I need to find a man presenting to an audience. Let's see if we have interesting results here. I kind of want to see the screen so we understand it's all about presentations, it's all about PowerPoint. It doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman. Let's see this maybe. It's a bit boring. Let's see if we can find something better. We have this, could be, but then this man right here will be where my text is, so not ideal. Let me continue and find the right photo here. Okay, I'm going to go with this one and I will try to flip this. Okay, this looks good. Now, of course, I need to work on that photo right here. So I'm going to click on it, go to adjust, and I will start by desaturating. And I will also add some, decrease the brightness and add a bit more contrast. So now I can start modifying the transparency of this photo to kind of let my gradient pierce through it, shine through it. I'm going to go with 40%. And then we can come back to that later and adjust. But we clearly see this is a presentation and there is a guy presenting here in the background who is not going to be under any other important element of my thumbnail. So that's good. We understand the story. It's about presentation. Okay. Now let's reproduce this text. So I'm going to add a text box by hitting the T key on my keyboard. And this needs to say my 3 words. Okay, so I'm going to select the text right here, and it's all cap PowerPoint killer. Okay, selecting this text and justifying to the left, making this bigger, way bigger, and I'm going to use the same font as the other thumbnail. I don't remember what it was, Proxima Nova. So let's see if we have something Proxima Nova. I think it was an imported, a font that I uploaded. So there is something similar, but it's not exactly the same, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the spacing here, PowerPoint killer, to about this and make this yay bigger, kind of like this. All right. PowerPoint killer. This is good. Maybe a little bit more spacing, not too much, maybe 0.8. Like this. That's good. PowerPoint killer. Okay, and I can see that my background here, maybe I could have a little bit less of intensity, so it's darker and I have more contrast on my thumbnail. Or I can also reduce the transparency here a bit more to 35. But I still want to see what's going on in the background. Okay, that's good. All right, the next element here was another kind of box that had another gradient in it. So let's find this element. So for this, I like to use grids as well. And I'm just going to resize this to the size of the box. Okay, and I will align it with the K here and the killer. So kind of like this. And what I did here, I just added another gradient in there. So going back to my photos, searching for a gradient. Oops, don't need to be all caps. And finding the nice gradient, something that will pop, something like this. Okay, this will definitely pop, but one thing I realized that my original gradient, my original thumbnail was way like less luminous, less purple, I would say. So I can work on that. I'm going to continue tweaking this to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, okay? To reproduce this perfect thumbnail. Okay, so something like this, and I can even reduce the brightness on my photo right here. Something like that. Okay, that's a bit more like the original, though it's still more colorful, but we can work with that. Okay, now adding another text box here, so another T key, and this says in all caps, okay, it says present feature. So the present feature is actually when Canva introduced this new present, so the presenter view. That was the first time they introduced it, and I believe this is Montserrat Classic, actually. Yep. And make this bigger, maybe 60, something like that. Okay, the present feature. Okay, everything is big, so we can read it even though we zoom back to the size 10. So that's very important when you create your thumbnails. I encourage you to zoom all the way out to about 10%, so you can see how little the thumbnail can look, because when you look at the thumbnail on your phone, it's going to be very little. But if you can still read everything, if it's still legible, then perfect. You actually made it correctly. All right, so we are almost done with this. We only need the Canva logo. So for that, it's very easy. Go to your elements, type in Canva, and you'll get the Canva logo that you can bring here. And I'm going to rotate this by 45%, position it in the corner and make that bigger. Okay, I kind of want the word to touch here and touch here, but still leave some empty spaces here. I can make this slightly bigger. Okay, this seems about right. All right, we can still see my presenter here. We can still see the slide behind him, and this is aligned with this. So perfect. I can maybe lift this up slightly like this, but making sure we are not leaving any space here in the corner without the logo. So yeah, it's actually looking pretty good. All right, so this is my best shot at reproducing this thumbnail. Okay, this one is a little bit more off, like less color, but I think this one has enough contrast to get us a fair amount of clicks on this thumbnail. So this is what I have for you guys in this lecture, and I will see you in the next lecture.